This is Adam King from Aliens Don't Ring Doorbells, and you're listening to Madness to Creation.
Go ahead, say it.
Welcome to the Madness to Creation podcast, where you freaking matter. This is Maddie. How are you? Hopefully you enjoyed this interview with Derek of the Homeless Gospel Choir, and I have brought my good friend Nate on there. And what was really cool about this is, after this interview, Nate decided to pursue a path of sobriety, and it really just shows that one conversation can be life-changing. So I hope you enjoy this. And follow us on the Madness Creation podcast on Facebook, TikTok, and Instagram at Madness Creation, and on Twitter at MTC Madness. Hope you're well, be safe, and be balanced.
Welcome to the Madness to Creation podcast, where self-care and music merge. Hopefully you guys out there are being safe, being well, and being balanced. And here I have with me is Derek of the Homeless Gospel Choir. Derek, how you doing?
I'm doing so good. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. And before the interview or podcast, whatever you want to call it, you talk about how you just moved and how it's not been the best week in the world for you. So give us a quick rundown of what's going on there.
Well, it's been absolutely fantastic in many regards. We've made new friends. I mean, even moving my things in, like there were just like two local punks that were walking down the street and we're like, hey man, what's up? You know, and it was nice to just like meet people on the street. That was really, really fun. And all the neighbors have been very kind to come by and say hello. But we did have just a few minor kerfuffles. We had a sewage issue yesterday where the person who's, was doing the transitional maintenance on the new house was down there. And I was like, hey, we're having a toilet clog issue. What can you know about it? And they opened a pipe in the basement and all this poo water went all over them. It was, I just witnessed it. I didn't even, I wasn't even, participating in it, but I did witness, this poor fella just absolutely covered in shit water. And I was like, man, what a bad break that happens to be. And but we've had great successes. We've met great neighbors, but there has been, I've never moved. I've lived in the same part of town my entire life. So to move somewhere completely new, I'm just not used to the trials and tribulations of it yet, but I'm getting there.
Yeah, absolutely. And did you move by yourself or do you have family or?
No, my partner and I moved here with our dog, Winnie Cooper. So we're just living here together as a 3-piece family. 2 humans and 1 dog. Oh,
that's awesome. And we also talk about mental health awareness on this podcast as well. And naturally, we're going to get into the live album. This is a protest song. And first of all, how much does your dog mean to you and your partner mean to you in your life?
Oh, for sure. They're the best. Once I realized that you get to have the family that you choose in this life. I think my health and my happiness really, improved in many ways. The fact that you get to pick and you get to choose the people that you get to call family. And, Lindsay's my best friend and we're in a marriage relationship together. And, nobody gets to see you at your best and your worst more than your partner, more than somebody who lives with you. So I'm very fortunate to have Lindsay in my life. And then also Winnie Cooper. She's our special furry family member, and she's the absolute sweetest girl who ever has been. And she was a rescue. We got her from the Ohio Lab Rescue, and we think she's about 8 years old. I can't, we don't know for sure, but about 8, we think.
Absolutely, and I want to introduce my friend Nate on the show. And Nate.
Hey, Nate.
Holy fuck. Oh my God. I'm so excited, dude. Hey, Derek.
Good to meet you, my friend. Thanks for being here with us.
It's good to meet you again. I saw you on the anniversary tour of Terror State with AntiFlag.
Oh yeah, that was a doozy of a gig, yeah.
And I absolutely fucking fell in love with what you do.
Oh, thanks so much,
and
Nate.
I fell in love with you as a person, and this is honestly like man, I'm so fucking stoked.
Thanks. I'm stoked too.
I'm stoked to be here with you, man. I'm so hungover. I think I might die.
Well, I'll tell you one thing that I've always, I used to drink too, but Gatorade was always my number one day after. You just have a little bit of Gatorade in you, and sometimes it does help you. Just a nickel's worth of free advice.
I love it, man. I'm so excited.
Yeah. So Nate, what were some memories that you have of that show that you saw with AntiFlag and Terror State, and Derek? And after Nate, Derek, if you want to share some memories of that tour
Sure.
For that show.
The one that sticks out to me is my best friend, whose name is Travis. Before he did a 1.5-year tour in Afghanistan. And before you played When the War Is Over.
Mm-hmm.
And what you said before that, he kind of lost his shit.
Mm-hmm.
And after the show, I think he talked to you, I think, for like maybe a good half hour.
Do you remember, was that in Chicago?
It was at Reggie's.
Yeah, I remember that show very well.
Oh my God. Yeah, dude, like that. That was my favorite show I've ever been to. You talked to him after the show, I think, for a good half hour.
Mm-hmm.
And he told you his story about being in Afghanistan and that was I think one of the biggest things. And also that was the first time that I've ever had anyone agree with me about Sublime being fucking terrible. Anytime that I say Sublime is fucking terrible, I almost get nailed to a fucking cross. So thank you for that.
Well, I think you're very welcome, Nate. Thanks for sharing that memory. I do have fond memories of that show as well. And I think in many ways, in both cases of the story, I think there's been room for growth. Number one, even though I don't like the sounds that the band Sublime makes, I do believe that every human being should make art and should be creative. And just because they make art and are creative with music that I don't necessarily like, doesn't mean that they shouldn't make music. Just because I think those songs belong in the toilet doesn't mean that they don't belong somewhere. So I've grown as a person to know that it's important for the little people that live inside of our hearts, for them to feel strong and for them to feel good. We got to let people make music, even if it's some crappy music that we don't like. That's one. And number two, at the time when I was playing When the War Was Over, a whole bunch, I had a friend named Bill who was a Vietnam vet, and he would always come in and he would always talk to me about, I was a bartender at the time, and he would always come in and he would talk to me about, the war. And he was like, sometimes I feel like we're still there and the war hasn't ended in my mind yet. And just that conversation with him over time, he'd come in and he was my regular, Fridays and Saturday mornings from 11 to 5 every day. And he would just come there and sit there and drink and tell me old stories. And, I realized when I was a young punk, when I was young and into political politics and into political punk rock music, I think I said a lot of disparaging things about people who had gone off to war because of the way that I thought about military and the way that I was like, if you go over there, you're no good and you're a murderer and yada, yada, yada. But I realized over time that whole infrastructure is aimed to marginalize the poor and marginalize kids who came from bad neighborhoods or kids who came from bad families or families that didn't have the opportunities to give them the privileges that people who didn't have to go to war go to. So I had to it came through time and came through education, and it came through me being humbled many times by losing arguments to people who I respect. did I learn that like those folks who often were engaged in those situations did not do so on their own free will and felt in many ways pressured and forced to do it. So,
excuse me.
No, that's all right, Nate. Get it out, buddy.
Yeah. And you brought up several good points there, Derek. So Derek, one of the points I want to bring up is I just feel like in our society, we do way too much talking over each other and stuff like that. How can we go about advancing the dialogue in our country and stuff like that? Like based upon the points that you bring up in your songs, which we will talk about in your live album, how can we go about revamping to where we actually listen to each other instead of just shouting over each other?
I think in some ways the internet has been a great tool that allows us to connect with folks that we wouldn't otherwise connect with. This being a prime example of which 3 people who probably wouldn't have this conversation today get to have this conversation today and be involved in each other's lives. But in other ways, I think that the internet has done a pretty bad job of giving us not the full picture of information. And we become isolated in like these echo chambers where we only have people around us who agree with us, and we're not able to hear an outside voice or an outside opinion. So for me, a way that I'm able to be the best version of myself that I can be is really giving ear to the other, and not people who believe differently than me or had different experiences than I have had. When I have conversations with people like that, I realize that I learn a lot more than just having conversations with people who already agree with me. That just really feeds my ego. Whenever people just tell you how smart and funny and clever you are all the time, it really doesn't do anything to grow you. It's just a nice pat on the back. But to have a conversation with somebody who's had a different life experience than you have, to learn from them and to maybe walk a mile in their shoes, I think that's been the greatest way to build bridges among people rather than being divisive.
Yeah, absolutely. So do you think like the media plays a role in our divisive culture as well?
Certainly. I mean, I just think it's new. It's more prevalent. It's not new, but it's more prevalent now because we spend much more time looking at it, either on our phones or on our computers or on the television screen or what have you. So I certainly do think that that type of flow of information has caused us to be more divisive. Sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And kind of just bring in to This Is a Protest live album that was released. First of all, I was a little bit unclear in the press release I received. When was that released?
It was just released a week and a half ago.
Okay, all right. I figured it was a newer release.
Thanks. Thanks so much. Yeah, it was just released a week and a half ago, but it was recorded in Europe in 2018.
So like, first of all, Nate, what do you like about the album?
It's perfect.
Thanks, Nate.
Were there any moments that stuck out to you?
I've listened to it at least 69 to 420 times.
That's great.
Was there any moments that stuck out to you in the album, Nate?
What's that?
Was there any moments that stuck out to you in the album that just like where it, like you just like hit the replay button over and over again?
I was showing a couple of friends of mine the album last night. I've the one that stuck out to me and actually a song that particularly means a lot to me is Untitled. I particularly love how with Untitled how how every time that you say, I haven't tried suicide, you change the year every time that you play it.
Yeah,
speaking of mental health.
Yeah, Derek, is there a reason why you changed the year when you repeat that line or sing that line in a concert or whatever it may be?
The song is still growing, and the song was written at a very specific time, but as we play the song, the information changes. So in order for me to be,
the Pirates are losing,
even when the Pirates are losing, we have I believe, the information in the song has changed. So I think it's good just to be honest to that. And hopefully we're not
a lighter. So BRB.
Oh no, go right for it, Nate. I hope that songs get to evolve and change and grow with the people who've had to make it. So that's, I just want to be honest about that too.
Yeah, absolutely. And kind of one thing I want to bring up, and you have the song With God on Our Side, and
With God on Our Side, we can go to war. Sorry.
Yeah, that's all right, Nate. Nate's very excited to talk to you. And With God on Our Side, it just brought up some questions that I have. Like, is it a song that's kind of talks about how religion, so to speak, plays a role in our wars, or is it kind of just taken like how America views it, or is it like how like the right wing of our population? I'm just kind of curious on your interpretation.
I think when I was writing that song, I saw a lot of people doing things that were egregious in the name of God and in the name of their religion. And I just wanted to make some sort of a political commentary in regards to that. Whether you look at our money or you look at any type of like government building in God we trust, God bless America, all those type of things. It seems like in the history of when we've been doing things, we're able to go ahead and say anything that we want to, as long as God is backing our efforts, whether it's going to war, whether it's marginalizing women or the LGBTQ community, or treating people of color as subhuman, not even human beings. And we were able to do all those things because we justified it with God being, the backbone of why we were doing it. And I just wanted to write a song about how I disagreed with that.
Yeah, absolutely. And you brought up some points there. Like 2020 was a tumultuous year for all of us. We were all in quarantine, lockdown because of COVID and stuff like that. What was the biggest thing that you learned about yourself, and how did you go about educating yourself even further than you are already educated?
Well, I don't know anything about all that education business, but I do know I do know that I forced myself to be slow, and I forced myself to go slow, and I forced myself to sit and to be with myself. And it's something that I've never really done before in my life. I think I've always thrived with just running at 1,000,000 miles an hour. I don't sleep very good, and I don't sit still very good either. So from the moment I wake up at about 6:30 in the morning till I can't move anymore at night, once I've done all my chores and I've done all my business, I'm just going at like 1,000,000 miles an hour. So like quarantine certainly gave me the space and the time and the resources to be able to just sit and just exist and just be. And I think that's the greatest lesson that I learned. The whole world's going to keep moving on without you, whether you consent to it or you don't. Mm-hmm. So you might as well take your time and get the things inside of you that you need, so that you can show up to life to be the best person. And I just really spent this year, doing that, just figuring out the things about myself that I liked, figuring out why I can, what my potential for goodness is, and then trying to focus on those things.
Yeah, and you mentioned potential for goodness. What is that potential? How do you see that potential?
Well, when I show up to life and I'm at my best, I believe that we all carry and we all possess an ability to affect other people in a positive way.
Mhm.
But when I don't get to show up to life as my best, I become a burden on other people.
Right.
And I know that I have joy when I get to be a helper, and I get to have joy in my heart when I get to do good. And when I'm not doing those things, I don't feel as fulfilled.
Right. Yeah, I kind of feel the same way. Like, kind of give you a personal story of mine. My dad is currently fighting stage 4 lung cancer, and I really appreciate that, Derek. And it's kind of taught me that I need to be present. I need to take each day and just live my best life that I can, and it's given me a whole new perspective and stuff like that. And and that's what I really appreciate about your music. It has such an idealistic vibe to it. And I don't know if idealistic is the right word, but it's a hope for a better world and stuff like that. So
I think in some ways people would call it idealistic, but it's not idealistic to me. Honestly, if you just do it, then that's your reality. I know that I come from a wealth of privilege. I have a mountain of it. I have a whole lot of gas in my tank and privilege that other people will never have or see. So I understand that I have that going for me. So I think if I can show up to life and find how I can give, it's not idealistic. It's just the way that you show up for it.
Absolutely. And so what's like the first step that you think we should take towards having a more equal society?
What steps we should take to have a more equal society?
Yeah, or like the very first step, because obviously to get to point D, you have to go to A, B, C, and C first.
Sure. I mean, the end game obviously is to abolish police and destroy capitalism, but there's a lot of steps before that we just can't wake up and have it be perfect tomorrow. I think just asking how you can be of service and being connected with people in your neighborhood or in your community that need help. I think the more connected we are to our surroundings and the people who are in our and in our realm of influence, I think that's the first step, and listening and being available to hear and being available to help. I think those are the two that I would say that's a good start.
Yeah, absolutely. And how have your neighbors been helpful to you so far? Like in terms of, you just moved to Lancaster, and to me, with you being a Pittsburgh native your whole life, it's a big transition. And how is your neighbors helpful to you? And have you found it to be a friendly community?
It's been great. Like from the very second I'm unloading stuff into the house, like some local punks from down the street just like walk up and they're like, "Hey, good to see you. Welcome to the neighborhood." All the neighbors have stopped over and my partner Lindsay has been invited to dinners, have been, it's been awesome. It's been really, really great. And just being a part of it and being welcomed into a new community. It's my first time ever living in a different place. So it's almost like a Mr. Rogers type of experience, to be honest with you.
Absolutely. And Nate, what else did you want to bring up about just based upon what we talked about? I want to make sure you're included in the conversation in terms of whether it's the album or anything like that.
Man, I don't know.
Is there any other songs to kind of help you? Is there any other songs that you feel connected to when you listen to the Homeless Gospel Choir?
Definitely Don't Give Up.
And how does that song help you get through?
Don't Give Up, absolutely. Don't Give Up absolutely saved my life. 100%. I came from a pretty awful abusive household, and with a lot of religion involved. So that's another reason that I love the song With God on Our Side, which you brought up. But don't give up. Just absolutely saved me. So thank you for that one.
Yeah, of course, Nate. Of course. I'm glad you love it.
Also, by the way,
look at that.
Oh, look at that.
We're in it together.
Yeah, so
what's that?
So, like, besides this experience, Derek, have you had like fans? Kind of one of the questions I usually ask on the podcast. Besides this experience that you're having right now, have you had fans come up to you and say, "Hey, this song changed my life or it saved my life"? And have you had other fans besides Nate here showing tattoos of the Homeless Gospel Choir on their body?
There's a good handful of folks out there that have Homeless Gospel Choir tattoos. God bless their hearts. I'm always, art is this powerful thing, and it's been powerful in my life. And there are bands that I have band tattoos myself. I have a Clash tattoo and a Minor Threat tattoo and a Neutral Milk Hotel tattoo and a Me Without You tattoo. And I love
Me Without You tattoo.
I surely do.
I love Me Without You.
They're a great band. They're from the state of Pennsylvania too.
Are they really?
They sure are. I live closer to them now than I ever have.
I did not know that.
Mm-hmm. They're a Philly band. But yeah, it's always humbling to see that the art that you've made has resonated with somebody, and the songs that you sing, mean something to somebody. Because as a fan of music myself, I'm also taken by it in many ways. So it's definitely. It's kind of shocking sometimes to see. But it's always welcomed, and it's nice too.
Yeah, absolutely. And in your live album, you brought up that you performed in Europe, right?
On that record, yes. It was in the UK predominantly, mostly, exclusively actually. It was just in the UK.
My question is, what's the difference between performing in front of a European audience as opposed to an American audience?
Music culture in Europe is a holy and sacred endeavor. It
sure is.
they really do roll out the red carpet for you. They really do treat you really well. There's always not to say that it's just commodifiable in the US, and it is a commodity in Europe too. But I think they place a high importance on live music and the arts and that type of a thing. So, when you go and you play shows in Europe, there's a stronger sense of hospitality in regards to like how they want you to be treated, because they want you to come back because they love live music. But not to say that doesn't exist in the US. I love to play shows here. It's great too. But
absolutely.
I think that Europe has more of a socialist view on like, we want everybody to feel good and to feel comfortable and be able to experience it. And the US is a little bit more, less that. It's more free market, unfettered capitalism, where the highest bidder gets the most VIP passes and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and kind of the one thing I kind of noticed, like based on social media and stuff like that, is like I've been reading comments like people can't believe that Rage Against the Machine and AntiFlag are political bands and stuff like that. Do you kind of get a kick out? Has anybody commented towards like your music being like, I can't believe you're this political band, political singer and stuff like that?
Yeah, sure. And everybody has an opinion. And face it, Rage Against the Machine changed music. I mean, they're a punk band. They went to Washington, D.C. and they go to New York City and they shut down Wall Street for 2 days. Like, that's real punk activism. That's direct action as you can possibly get. And sure, they're played on the radio. And sure, they're a Los Angeles music industry band, but like they really have created, in my opinion, true change. And they've always had some sort of a political endeavor behind their music. And the same with AntiFlag. You know, you look everywhere they go, there's some sort of political endeavor or some sort of like activist cause that they're rallying behind. And it's more than just punk rock songs and t-shirts. I really do think that they're trying to create a community of fellow-minded thinkers that are in every little community in the world, you know, trying to create positive change. And I think that's superpower.
Yeah,
of course,
have you guys watched the Anti-Flag documentary?
I sure have, yeah.
That just came out recently?
Yes.
It was so good.
I think so too. Those boys are really onto something with that punk rock music, I'll tell you.
They sure are onto something.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, like a few years ago, I interviewed Pat Fettig, the drummer of AntiFlag on the Warped Tour, and talk about what a nice, engaging person he is. One of the nicest people I've ever talked to. Like,
Pat's the best.
Are you very close friends with AntiFlag, or like who are some of like your closest friends in the industry, so to speak?
Well, I mean, I've toured with AntiFlag so many times. AF Records has put out all my albums. I've toured Europe with them twice. I've toured the US with them 2 or 3 times. So, I mean, I've been all over the place with them. Chris #2 has written and produced some songs with me on my first 3 albums. Awesome. He's the absolute best. I love Chris, I love Pat, I love Justin, I love Chris Head too. Chris Head and I are bicycle buddies. Back home in Pittsburgh, we would get up and ride our bicycles like 20 miles in the morning, you know, once a week. Pat, I always have, anytime I ever have any money questions, I always ask Pat. Pat's like he's like the punk rock businessman where he
yes,
wants
to.
He always wants to give you the ethical tip and tell you how to do it right. And Justin is such a creative person and so encouraging and thoughtful. I love AntiFlag, and I love that we're friends, and I love the history of the work.
Yeah. So what is
you're also good friends with Frank Iero?
Yes, me and Frank are really good buds too. Absolutely.
If I wasn't so connected to MCR, I think that I would go as far as to say that I love Frank Iero's solo stuff more than I love MCR.
You wouldn't be the only person to say that. There's a lot of people that like his solo stuff pretty good, and I happen to be one of them.
Yeah. So what is your?
I love MCR. But Frank Iero's solo stuff, like, holy fuck, it's so good.
Yeah. So
I was very fortunate to see it.
Absolutely. So what is your mindset like when you go in the studio, and do you plan on, I know you just released a live album. Are you working on new music as we speak?
Mm-hmm. There's an EP that we just recorded that's going to be released this fall. That we have a meeting for here in just a couple of minutes. Right after I'm done with this call, I have another call with the record label, and we're going to put out this. It's a 2-song split with another band from our area that they live close to me now, and that's going to go out. And then we're, I'm just excited about being in a dang punk rock band. Like, I know a lot of people are excited about going back on tour and hitting the road again, which is great. But I love to make albums. I love to record my thoughts, and I love to put them out, and I love for things to be new and fresh. So for me, the great joy is writing the songs and then figuring it out with the band. So,
yeah. And one final question that I have for you.
Sure.
What is the sound? I always ask this question on the Madness Creation podcast. What is the soundtrack to your life? What is like some songs or albums that help you get through when times get difficult?
That's a wonderful question to ask. Thanks for asking it.
Hey, no worries.
When times get difficult, I don't know. I just like to listen to happy music. I like to listen to music that makes me smile and that makes me feel like it's sunshiny outside. So, maybe I'll listen to the Beach Boys. I love the Beach. I do. I love the Beach Boys. I love the Beatles. I love Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young.
Oh, those are all great.
I
bands.
love Dolly Parton a whole bunch. I listen to like Gillian Welsh or Emmylou Harris, just like things that are beautiful and pretty. I sometimes the thoughts in our mind can be super duper dark, and sometimes when we listen to heavy or dark or sad music, it irritates the darkness that's in our mind. So I like to go ahead and try and listen to something that's peaceful and happy and joyful and celebratory to try and combat some of the darkness that's in there.
Absolutely, Derek. And it was such a pleasure to have you on. We're going to let you go so you can get to your meeting and stuff like that. And I would love to follow up with you sometime. So thank you so much for joining the Madness Creation Podcast. And thank you too, Nate.
Thanks, Nate. Thanks, Maddie. It's great to meet you. Great to be here with both of you. I hope all your dreams are coming true.
I hope so for you too as well. So
all right.
Enjoy your transition into Lancaster.
Thank you so much. Thanks for taking the time to talk with me.
Absolutely. Talk to you later.
See y'all.
See ya.